Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about gig economy. What is the potential of gig economy in India? What are the issues related? What is the way forward? Everything will be discussed in detail over here. Let's begin with the news first. What is the news? Now, the news says that a center is going to hold talks about the situation of gig economy and gig workers in India through the V.V. Giri Institute. V.V. Giri Institute works under the aegis of Union Labour Ministry, and it is going to have a brainstorming session from the 13th of June onwards in order to present models about different countries such as Thailand, Malaysia, China, Australia, on how do they deal with the social security issues of their own gig workers. Okay, so this is the entire gamut of talks that we are going to discuss over here. Let's begin with first knowing what are gig workers or what is a gig economy. Gig economy is made up of workers who work at a business which is temporary in nature. That means their work may be temporary or time required in nature. These have flexible jobs and these have a commonplace company. They tend to hire independent contractors as well as freelancers instead of full-time employees. Like, they do not hire contractual workers or salaried workers, but this economy is basically made up of those who want quick money and also try to have a side income like that. So there is no proper institutionalization of such an economy, and you won't believe it is employing many people. Okay, so gig economy has consumers, for first of all, to tend to the convenience of the consumers, lower quality of goods and services, cheap products and services. This is provided to them through gig economy. Gig economy has the examples of Swiggy, Zomato, also Uber, Ola, Airbnb. Then for industry, increased concentration of wealth at the investor level is there because people are investing in such economies. Then corporate consolidation and colonization of entire sector by tech platforms. Digital platform is the huge component of a gig economy. Then also laborers low wages because they are working for quick money, short-term money. They have low wages also, they have no contracts, and there is no employment protection as well, as they are not under any sort of contract. So provisions such as EPFO, ESIC, this does not, these security things do not apply to these laborers. Decrease in post to work or long hours as well. Then also small producers and many other things. You can go one by one. You can take a screenshot. Moving on, let's talk about the other part about the potential in India. What is the potential in India with respect to gig economy? Now, where people are self-employed around the world, self-employed people, they form a huge part of the gig economy. You can see in Niger, it's 95.71%. Then in India, it is 75.8%, just below the country of Niger. Then Senegal, Colombia, China is 44.7%. Greece, UK, Japan, US, and UAE. So you see that gig economy is proliferating specifically after the COVID-19 pandemic. Business models have changed, and for that very reason, it is important for us to know, for the Indian government to know, in order to make policy, how to ensure that the gig economy workers, like the organized workers, are enrolled in the eShram portal, which is a portal for unorganized workers under the Ministry of Labour itself. Because until and unless we know what is the amount of gig economy workers in our economy, we won't be able to formulate policies and social security policies. So 56% of the new employment in India is being generated by the gig economy, and mostly they are demanded in the blue collar and white collar workforce. Blue collar workforce is basically made up of those who are working as manual workers, and they are paid wage hourly. And if we talk about white collar workforce, these are basically involved into the basically you can call them salaried employees who are involved in the management of a company and regular business. And also white collars, if we talk about freelancers and short-term laborers, short-term employees, if we have to say better for white collar workers, then there is a huge demand in project specific consultants, salespeople, web designers, content writers, as well as software developers, digital marketers. So the gamut is huge if we talk about gig economy right now. The 90 million jobs in India in the non-farm sector is being created by gig economy itself. And as we know that agriculture has a lot of disguised unemployment, right? So to reduce disguised unemployment, because it is not going to affect the productivity of agriculture, we need to make sure that non-farm opportunities are also given. Then if we talk about India to become a $5 trillion economy by the year 2025, gig economy is going to play a huge part. In the long term, it can add up to 1.25% of the GDP. Moving on, if we talk about the next thing, that is, why is it so attractive? Now, why is it so attractive? First of all, there is a flexibility to work from anywhere. Like from millennials to we are moving towards the Gen Z generation, they want to ensure that they are pursuing the career which they love rather than just for money which does not satisfy them. So there is a flexibility for that. Then changing work approach is actually related to this only, that because the work approach is changing and they want that, lifestyle quality also does not get compromised by just doing work and work and work and work. So they want to pursue such careers which can satisfy both the criteria. Business models are also changing. After the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically, business models may not be a brick mortar structure, but more than that, they have the infrastructure of digital economy through which they can reach their consumers as well as employees, and employers can connect at a much faster rate. Then emergence of a startup culture, because startup culture, they cannot hire full-time salaried workers because they might have to give higher salaries in the beginning of their startup career. They are tending to take those people who are looking for similar aspirations as the startup culture have for a short period of time. Then rising demand for contractual employees. This is also something that we need to understand, that is actually impacting the gig economy, because contractual employment is something that, first of all, gig economy workers, although they are working as freelancers, but they also want to assure and ensure that their social security does not get hampered. So for that as well, we have to see that gig economy is moving towards the right direction. Then we call the issues. First of all, because gig economy is so large, so huge, and there is no proper portal for them to get enrolled in. So this is pretty unregularized in nature. They do not have any contract to abide by. Similarly, the employers do not have the responsibility in such matters for their employees. There is need for skills, although there is a culture of doing quick work, but this is basically generalist in nature. Certain work do require skill upgradation. If there is no skill, the gig economy eventually will be impacted and hampered, and demand supply mismatch as well, because there is a huge potential, and there are so many independent employees that want to work as freelancers, but not enough job creation is being done for them in different companies. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the associated legislation. First, right now we have the associated legislation with respect to gig economy, that is the Code on Wages 2019. It provides for universal minimum wage and floor wage across organized as well as unorganized sectors, which includes gig workers. And according to Code on Social Security 2020, it recognizes gig workers as a new occupational category. Okay, so there is recognition, but not social security provided to them, is being provided to them. There is a provision in Thailand and in Malaysia that for rides such as Ola, Uber, they are deducting 2% of the rides. For the companies there are deducting 2% of the rides, ride money, in order to provide social security scheme to their employees, health security scheme, medical insurance like that to their employees. So these models will also be discussed in the brainstorming session. What is the way forward? First of all, e-Shram portal, which is under the Ministry of Labor, it should have a subcategorization of portal in which gig economy workers can be enlisted so that policy creation can be done. Their legislation should be made much more enforceable so that they do not just work on just, creation of a legislation for the sake of creation of legislation, but also in order to make them more secure and provide them different insurance scheme, such as insurance scheme. We have governmental insurance scheme, so many insurance schemes are there, so that in order to make them have a surety about their future, not only with respect to economy but also with respect to their health. Empower the gig workers, let them know about what are their rights, if they have the right to claim anything on their companies, if they have the right to switch over to any other company as a freelancer. So that is also important. Also offer mandatory coverage to platform workers, that is with respect to social security scheme. This should be ensured by Ministry of Labor. It should be made aware, the entire gamut of social security should be made aware to the gig workers, also should be relayed on to the employers, so that they know that they are under the obligation of mandatory social security scheme. Build the right fiscal and social infrastructure, not only through physical means but also the digital infrastructure, so that employer-employee relation, it can improve. Okay, let's move on to our mains question. The mains question says, what is a gig economy? Discuss the associated benefits and the issues of it. Also suggest the way forward. And I just want to tell you that last time in the news, I asked you a question about who all have answered it correctly, about the issue of UADI being established, in which year was it actually established. So many of you have answered it correctly. Let me just go on and take the names of those who have answered it correctly. Although UIDAI, it was established as a statutory body earlier, in 2016 itself. But before that also, it was working as an attached office. Let me just go through. So, more of that, I have to also ask you a question for today itself. Yes, Rupal Verma has said that UIDAI was working as an attached body to Planning Commission since 28 January 2009. That is correct. Then, next person who has answered it correctly. Many of you have written September 2010, which is not correct. Just go to UIDAI's actual website. You will find it there. Okay. Pallavi Jangir has answered it correctly. Yes, that's correct. And Darshan has also answered it correctly. Okay. So like this, today I cannot find any interactive question. This is more of a means-based question. So that's all for today. Next time we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated. And thank you so much for watching.